Kahi mai kākou. My name is Niniao Simmons, and you're watching the 2018 Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum. With me today is my pakana.
Kauko Hokalani Wahilani no Pu'ea Maiao. And we're coming from the beautiful studios of Ōlelo TV. Right now we're doing a segment with the Lieutenant Governor. So we have Dr. Josh Green, Marissa Kearns, Jeremy Lowe, and Renee Ng. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you.
So as many of you may not know, the volunteers of the Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum have been putting together this event since 2012, since the elections of 2012. And so we want to thank all of our volunteers and everyone that's been involved for the last few elections,
Yes.
who donate their time to come and participate. We also want to thank our candidates gathered here tonight. This is our number 4 panel. We've had earlier races with the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House, as well as the governor's race. So right now, as we begin, we're talking to our lieutenant governor candidates. I will give you 2 minutes each for an introduction, and then to answer our questions afterwards, you'll get 1 minute. We have our lovely timekeeper to my right,
Meliana.
and she will give you the signal when you hear the phone buzzer. So starting to my right, we will ask
Renee Ng.
Renee Ng if you want to give introduction and let the folks out in Ōlelo TV land know a little bit more about you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting us to this forum. It's, a chance to speak to the greater audience and a chance because you'll ask us questions for them to get to know us in a way that I would not think of telling them. Anyway, my name's Renee Ng. I am running as Lieutenant Governor candidate with the Green Party of Hawaii. And I am running partly because I had the opportunity to grow up in a Hawaii and in America that was a product of the New Deal. That means I only paid $100 to go to UH Manoa. I only paid $100 a month's rent, and that was only 1 week's pay, because at that time you only the standard was that you only had to pay 25% of your pay, 1 week's pay for rent. And I knew that I was going to get a good job. I knew that I was going to buy a house. It was a really, really positive time when we had the American dream because of the New Deal, because they created the America that a lot of us remember. And this is the kind of Hawaii we want to have. We want to bring it back because I feel so badly for the young ones. What's happening now, it's not, unreasonable for them to feel that things are not working for them. And we need to create a Hawaii, this is within our power, a Hawaii where they can have an affordable house, where they can have affordable health care. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Mr. Lowe.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Jeremy Lowe, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor in the Republican primary on August 11th. I am a real conservative, and I am a real Republican. The office of Lieutenant Governor has been underutilized for years. As Lieutenant Governor, I will be a very proactive advocate for good public policies. I also see the Lieutenant Governor becoming an unofficial Inspector General, which would be very different than the State Auditor. The Lieutenant Governor is part of the Executive Branch, the State Auditor is part of the Legislative Branch. The Lieutenant Governor is elected by the people. The State Auditor is selected by the majority of the legislature. The State Auditor just writes reports and can't fine or sue anyone. The Lieutenant Governor could actually root out waste and fraud in the state government bureaucracy. As a Hawaii State constitutional officer, the Lieutenant Governor has the duty and authority to do much more than past Lieutenant Governors have done. It's a matter of backbone and political will, and not just waiting around as a political understudy. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor to improve our economy and create new private sector jobs by implementing good and sensible public policies. I support tax cuts and I oppose tax increases. Businesses will invest, expand, and create more jobs when their tax burden is low. I strongly support the Second Amendment, and I'm a life member of the NRA. My campaign slogan is Make Hawaii Great Again. To find more information about me and my stand on issues, please go to my website, votejeremylowe.com, and my Facebook page, Jeremy Lowe for Lieutenant Governor. Please vote for me, Jeremy Lowe, in the Republican primary on August 11th. Thank you and mahalo.
Mahalo, Mr. Lowe. Marissa Kearns.
Aloha and mabuhay. My name is Marissa Dipasupil Kearns.
Yes.
I'm an immigrant, born and raised in Manila, Philippines. I moved in Hawaii in 1987 and became a U.S. citizen in 1992. I'm a proud American citizen. And of course, in my blood, I still have the Filipino blood. As many Hawaiians, many Waiʻanae people, we all like mixed Filipinos. And I'm proud to run representing Waiʻanae. This is a great opportunity from Waiʻanae people, especially the Hawaiians. My kids are Hawaiians as well. We have to prove to ourselves, to our people, that we need to take our state back. I am the only business owner that is running for this election. That I work every day and I run for office. I do my campaign in the afternoon. I own 2 businesses and I have 2 teenager kids. They both from Kapolei High School. They graduated magna cum laude. And I want them to stay here. I love the state. I love the people. I love the Hawaiians to take the state back. I'm Filipino in blood. You guys should take it back. I did so much community work. I'm a Rotarian. You know, and again, you know, as Filipino, we do everything. I help to clean and paint the bleacher and the gym of the Nanakuli High School. And I met so many great kids, and they're homeless. I think for me, my number one is to take care of the kids, the innocent, that taking all the burden of the dysfunctional leadership in our government. It can be done, Hawaiians. Come on, you guys take back the state. Thank you.
Mahalo. And last but not least, Dr. Josh Green.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here tonight. I want to reach out to everyone in Waiʻanae and say it's a privilege to be able to address you directly. I came to Hawaii a long time ago to be a doctor for the people of Ka'u. I was with the National Health Corps, and in that capacity, we had no doctor on the Big Island for the entire southern part of the Big Island. And I began to take care of wonderful families, most of whom actually were Hawaiian and Filipino. And in that course of time, over 4 years, I saw the challenges that our families face. I saw the greatest tragedies also. I saw two individuals that were toddlers suffer greatly. A 1-year-old fell from a balcony from a lanai and passed away when his parents weren't attentive to him because of drugs. And then just a few weeks later, another 1-year-old was run over by a car. And this was while I was in the emergency room doc, and through the graces of God, the nurses' work and mine to a lesser degree, we were able to save that second child. And I thought, we have to be able to do more. I was so worried about drug addiction, so worried about the impacts of not having a trauma system, I thought I'd run for office. So I went door to door all across West Hawaii and explained who I was, a doctor that cared about people, and I was chosen. And it's been an honor ever since. So I served 2 terms in the House of Representatives, first for Kona, and then was elected to the Senate 4 years later, where I've served for 10 years. And then in the last 2 years, my family and I decided that I should take a larger leadership role if people would have me, so that I can focus on the biggest challenges we have in our state, whether it's universal health care for all of our families, to close some of the gaps in care, the disparities that we face as Hawaiian people in Waiʻanae, to look at homeless solutions, and I've begun to address that directly as a physician, to address drug addiction and so many other things. I'm joined here by my family, Jamie, Sam, and Maya today. I can't wait to share more with you. I'm, again, so honored to be here on this panel.
Thank you, all of you, and welcome again. For those of you just joining us, you are watching the 2018 Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum. I'm Niniao Simmons, and to my left is my esteemed colleague, Kaukaohu Wahilani.
Aloha.
Aloha. So we want to welcome you. Thank you for your introductions. I myself am a Big Island girl, born and raised from Hilo and moved to Waiʻanae in 2007.
I'm born and raised in Nanakuli in 1966. Went to Mokuokeawe in 1968 when my mom, she's an educator, so she was in the very first Hawaiian language, Hawaiian studies classes with Larry Kimura, and Mary Kavena Pukui was my mom's kumu. And then we came back in 72, and I'm also a homesteader up in Waiʻanae Valley. I'm a proud father, kalo farmer, aloha aina waiʻio. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Mahalo. Thank you for joining us. So this next section of our forum, we will ask questions, and each of you will have 1 minute to reply. So I know I started with you to my right. We will start with Mr. Lowe for this first question. Homelessness and overcrowding have plagued the Waiʻanae coastline. Please describe your next action steps you would take as Lieutenant Governor.
Well, first of all, I think the reality is we live in America, and there is freedom, there is liberty, but people do make choices. But the reality is we live as a community and a society, so therefore there are laws. We have to enforce our laws. When people break the laws, they need to be punished. We should also help those who want help. The reality is many do, unfortunately many don't. So the thing is, you have to look in the overall, who wants help and who doesn't. We also have to aggressively make sure that people use shelters. The unfortunate reality is many shelters are like almost never full. So clearly, there are different methods, and one that I would suggest is that as a community we come together. And Waiʻanae is a perfect example. We see that there's much less crime in that homeless community because they work together as a community. So because of that, it is possible, but we have to work together. And I strongly support that community orientation.
Thank you. So for those of you in TV land, I believe you're referring to the Waiʻanae Boat Harbor homeless camp?
Yes.
Pu'uhonua Waiʻanae,
Okay.
led by Auntie Twinkles.
Okay.
She's been doing a great job. Mrs.
Okay.
Kearns?
I'm going to tackle the homelessness, I would say the cost of living, because that's number one. That's one of the reasons they became homeless. Of course, there's drugs. I live in Waiʻanae by Poke Bay, and I see homeless every day. I offered my garage, offered linens, food, name it. You can't just ignore them. So there's no excuse being homeless. I'm from the Philippines. I grew up poverty as well. But we have roof on top of our head. Government never helped us. The parents that I have, are very good parents. And for me, lower the taxes, reverse all the taxes, because Act 172, all Democrats, including Governor Ige, signed that, is to give illegal aliens that live in our state driver's license. There's about 40,000 of them. That's why. This is one of the causes of people having, no home to live. Because again, we have these thousands of illegals that's in our state. And again, they said it's not sanctuary. It is, because they're taking all the resources that we have. And it's not good.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Dr. Green, I'll do the question again. Homelessness and overcrowding have plagued the Waiʻanae coastline. Please describe your next action steps you would take as Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. Most important question to me I could imagine. I've already begun to take those steps, and I will continue as Lieutenant Governor if chosen. When I went to Pu'uhonua Waiʻanae, I met with Twinkle. I love her. I offered health care with my stethoscope and a doctor's bag and a prescription pad. And in learning from Twinkle and the families, taking care of a child who just lost her grandfather, I knew that we had to have a solution that was civilized, humane, loving. I've begun a new approach called the H4. The problem is vast for thousands of our people. We have to provide hygiene, health care, medical respite, and housing, that full spectrum. When we do that, people suffer less. We can deal with some of the great challenges, whether there's addiction or mental illness. But only by taking that approach that is heartfelt can we actually solve this problem. I've already begun. I've started a free clinic in Chinatown. I will do this on a much larger scale as Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally,
Yes.
Winnie Ing.
Thank you. My gubernatorial running mate, Jim Brewer, and I both agree that Ohana zones are a very good idea, and we think that they can work. If you take a piece of state land, land is 50 to 75% the cost of housing, okay? You take that off the table, right? You get a big piece of state land. If you had a tent, said city, for instance, the one like in Waiʻanae, on one end, on the other end, if you built affordable housing, preferably two-story, after that's finished, you dismantle the tent city, the people move into that affordable housing, it works. And then of course you build on this side, you build some more. You know, it can work if you, and state land is something that affordable housing is being built on, has been built on.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Renee. My question, being that I'm a lifelong resident of the Waiʻanae Coast and being a Waiʻanae high school graduate, proud to be, we are losing a lot of teachers, so because of the cost of living and so forth. So my question would be, as Lieutenant Governor, would you also implement legislation for pay raises to our teachers that are comparable to those on the U.S. continent? Starting with you, Dr. Josh Green.
Thank you. Yes, I proposed this last year starting wages at $50,000. I also believe that we need to have retention bonuses so that when teachers commit their lives to our students in Hawaii, after 2 years and 5 years and 10 years, we give them bonuses so they can repay their very large college debt. They can afford to maybe buy a house, to set their roots here, because every time we lose a teacher, we lose all of that experience. I can tell you when I came as a doctor to it took me a year and a half to become, I think, culturally sensitive. And though I had so many loving local families take me in, it still took time. And when teachers come and then go, we lose the opportunity to have the continuity for our keiki. So that is my basic approach. I think we should reward teachers very greatly with much higher wages, because every year we have a 10 to 12% puka right out of the gate. And that means our kids don't get fully qualified teachers. There's just too many challenges without those benefits.
Thank you. Mr. Lowe, do you want to answer that question?
Regarding education, especially for the teachers, the recruitment and retention, it's a very simple proposition. I would double or triple teacher salaries, but the teachers in the negotiation, they would agree to get rid of the tenure system. The union and the teachers would agree to that. And it would be very simple because, there's a pay scale, right? So it could be from like 50,000 to 150,000, right? And depending on the number of years you have served. And also there will be merit-based, that's, very important. But the problem is there's too much of a stranglehold on, there's always a small minority who are dead weight or who are, unfortunately, they should be fired. But in our system, it's almost impossible to get rid of teachers who shouldn't be there. So when you get rid of the tenure system, but you offset that with increasing salaries, and you're going to have a much larger pool of people who want to be teachers. Recruitment and retention will be easy at that point because people will want to be teachers. You'll have a huge pool of people who want to be teachers. Thank you.
If I could just, mahalo for sharing your perspective on that, Jeremy Lowe. I just want to add on my mana on that. So increasing the pay wages, right? So you have what you just mentioned, and you'd have this abundance of teachers getting into the pay because of the pay scale. However, if that would be the narrative for the teachers, their incentive, then I would assume that there would be a lot of teachers lining up. But for those that really want to teach and to be there for the students, that's who, I would love to have my kids to be tutored under. So just something I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mrs.
I
Kearns?
agree. Teachers supposed to be incentivized because it's hard to find. My own daughter would like to be a teacher, and she's so smart. She's in robotics. She's got scholarship. I'm really, really proud of my daughter. But the thing is, don't worry about the pay. If you really want your industry, you stick with that. Just be be happy what you got. You know what I'm saying? That's who I am, okay? So I understand, they deserve more. But the problem is, my own children will tell me, Mom, my teacher don't have no materials for this, for that. So we don't understand where all this money that we've been paying. Do they really go to the teachers or to the administrators, the managers? We don't know. So the teacher's not getting the right pay for them. And again, so many kids in Waiʻanae, and Kapolei, it's painful. I don't want to tell you that, but teachers sacrifices as much as the parent, as us,
Yes.
and they deserve a lot. I just can't tell you how much because I don't have their pay scale. 50,000, 4 years, not good enough. You need more, because I'm in transportation. I make almost double that, and my college from the Philippines.
So, mahalo.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think that a $50,000 beginning pay sounds good. The retention bonus sounds good too. But we have to look at the work environment also. I taught after school classes. You really need mentors in the school helping that teacher. They know the topic, the subject, but helping that teacher learn the child management so that they can handle making the kids know that I am the boss, you listen to me, please do what I just asked you to, so that we can get to this, learning. And then my gubernatorial candidate and I really think that we should institute PK to 3 preschool, 3 years old to grade 3, which brings them in their math and reading scores up to par with everybody else. And what the difference is, they stay with the same teacher every year for 6 years. There's that bond. The teacher knows the kids, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their families, and makes a big difference.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Your next question.
Yes, I think we've touched upon wages and affordability for housing. So there was a recent study that said low income in the county of Honolulu was $93,400. So starting pay for a poor teacher at $50K is kind of
Low.
is below low income. Affordable housing is and has been an issue in Hawaii. What strategy do you propose to help? And Marissa.
I will reverse the law act 172, because again, we get pounded with 40,000 illegal aliens living in our state. And what do those guys do? I don't know. Who's feeding them? Who's giving them all these, entitlements? So our own kids, our own citizens, our innocent kids are suffering, including our senior citizens. We need to reverse that law. We need to put that in the ballot and take it back. Because you know why? That's not good. It's not good. And not too many people know. That's why I told everybody, the supermajority Hawaii Democrat, they voted for that. And Governor Ige signed it. And that's Sanctuary City. Why don't you know what I'm saying? Come on, think straight. Why will you let go those people into our state? We could barely afford to feed our own kids. And that's one of the reasons our life here is so bad. That's just one. How about the rest of the taxes these guys are wanting to pass? SB 2922. They say they need it for education. You gotta be kidding me. It's insane. Education starts from home, not from the money that you're gonna give the kids or the teachers or the principals. It doesn't work like that. Cut the taxes.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Green, same question.
I think the question was about how do we get affordable housing built, and my belief is that for anyone who's going to develop high rises, which have become a big challenge for us, that for every large development that's done that way by the developers, that they should also do an affordable housing project. Make it simpler. No one should get away from that kind of commitment, and I know that our builders want to do it. We should expand the revolving housing trust fund. We want to put as many incentives as we can to get these units built. We have to be practical about it. But we're talking about, there's about 7,800 to 8,500 homeless individuals, but then there's the vast middle class that just can't afford housing. So we need to get rents down so that you can really get an affordable rent. $800, $900, $1,000 a rent, which still can be a lot of money for people, but that's where we have to go. So building appropriately along the transient-oriented housing projects that we have in mind also should be very valuable. I know rail's controversial, but I think that is going to be an opportunity for us as new communities get built. We have a lot more people that are going to both be born and come to Hawaii, and we have to be ready with housing.
Thank you. Renee?
Yes, well, along the transit-oriented route, the Public Welfare Director, Hakeem Owen Safi, is on top of it. Couple of years ago, he already laid out 5 plans for 5 properties all on state land along. So we should fund his projects. We need to because they include so many people from welfare, subsidized housing, as well as workforce housing up to median income. On top of that, state land cuts 75%, 75% off the cost. So we should make it possible to build low-cost, affordable housing, especially for the people who earn 60% of median income on those lands, keep it leasehold forever so that the state can make sure it stays affordable forever. That's the way we can make affordable housing stay affordable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowe?
Affordable housing really is basic economics, right? I mean, it's supply and demand. The unfortunate reality is the way government is structured by the majority Democrats here, it's overregulated. You know, we can't build enough housing because government just makes it too difficult. Basically, the Land Use Commission and, with the city, and, it takes years and years from the state and the city and, just getting approvals. That's not how you go about it. What you need to do is you simplify the system, you streamline the system, and, that's what Republicans are all about. We're about small government. We're about limited government. It's not about Big Brother watching over you and trying to decide everything, right? Government shouldn't be all things to all people. Government should do what it's good at, right? Government should take care of the people when they need your help, and they should get out of your way when they're, hindering business and growth and economic development. It's a very simple concept. Affordable housing will fall into place just with once we create a good economy in Hawaii, affordable housing will happen. It's all connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Thank you. As Lieutenant Governor, would you implement policies on living wages and to make it a livable wage for people? Like, so what is the minimum wage right now?
Is it 15?
$10.10 an hour right now.
Democrats
So
want 15
that's
though.
not really a livable wage. So
It's supposed to be $43 according to the $93,000.
right.
Yep.
So would there be anything challenging for you folks to implement on that?
Yeah, that's a proposal I've put forth several times. It's correct. A $15 living wage as a start is $31,000. It's not a living wage. It's barely getting out of poverty. A loving couple that comes together, both making that wage, would just make $62,000, and they would still require Medicaid assistance for health care. And if they had children, of course, the costs are too great. The MIT study that I read said that $21 is the beginning approachable living wage. That's $42,000 a year. Of course, it varies greatly across all different areas. The point is, you got to start somewhere. And to send a symbolic message, and I believe in this, to begin with a living wage at $15 and move much upward, that's really for starting earners. It will drive everyone's wages up. And also, by fortifying the base, then the economy grows because people will actually have monies to invest, whether it's in housing, for the health care, or for just in their loved ones. That's my belief, and I'll always fight for that.
Thank you. Mr. Kearns?
Again, the living wage for the $93,000 is $43 an hour. How about make them $30? How's that? But you're still gonna need an extra body to help you out to pay your rent. It's hard to survive in Hawaii. Every day I go out there, everybody's leaving. And the only way we can do that, reverse all the taxes these guys put it out there. There are 2 right now, I think it's on the ballot. And again, taxing people, innocent kids, senior citizens, they shouldn't be doing that. This is not the right time. And Governor Ige has no guts to get rid of those taxes. It's not going to reverse it. And that's why I'm going to tell the governor, hopefully us Republican wins it. Because why Democrats will not going to do that. They always want all the money to themselves. The same thing with the permit. They don't want to zone. They don't want to give permit to any of those state land, right? And Hawaiians need those land. I would propose, give it to the Hawaiians. So many people made billions of dollars because of you Hawaiians. And that's the reason I'm proud to move to Waiʻanae. I'm living in Waiʻanae because people in Waiʻanae always going to be left behind. And that's not good.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Mr. Law?
A living wage, minimum wage, these are all artificial constructs. Rent control, that's not how you run an economy. In America, you know, we have free markets, we have capitalism. That's how you create a good economy. The proposals that the Democrat majority are always throwing out, it hurts. You know, you want to raise a so-called living wage or a minimum wage, that just cuts jobs, right? All of us, you know, go to McDonald's. They have these electronic computers where you put in your order. They're like laying off people, right? I mean, that was a place where you could start as a high school kid, get a you know, minimum wage job. You could go buy a car, right? Because you worked enough hours and you built up. And as a high school student, you're supposed to still be in school, right? But you know, you're working part time. That's what minimum wage is. It's not meant to, like, you know, feed a family of 4. Right? So these artificial constructs that the Democrats keep proposing will only hurt our economy. We have to have free markets and improve our economy. Please vote Republican.
Thank you. And last but not least, Renee Ng.
$15 an hour, as we all know, is just the minimum wage. And by the way, the legislators had said that if we have Medicare for all Hawaii, the businesses say then they can then give a $15 an hour minimum wage, but that's just the beginning. We have to have an economy that has good jobs. And if we did have Medicare for all, we would have a lot more medical jobs, for instance, in the economy. If we had a vision to have health tourism in this state as the healthiest state in the nation, where people come for respite, you know, that would give a lot. We need to grow more jobs that have higher wages, and it's in the state's interest to do that. As everyone knows, the multiplier effect is with higher wages, each dollar spent makes $7 in the economy, because it, you know, then you buy this and they buy that, and so we need a $15 minimum wage minimum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answers, candidates.
Thank you. The role of Lieutenant Governor is perceived as a largely ceremonial one. If elected, how would you position yourself to alter that perception? And Dr. Green, you're first.
Sure. So I've said on numerous occasions that I intend to take full ownership of the homeless crisis and to address the opioid epidemic in our state. As a physician, I have a lot of capacity. I still work full-time as an ER doc on the Big Island, help run free clinics here in our state, on Oahu and around the state. And I know that with that kind of experience and perspective, people, number one, they do take me seriously. I have a lot to give. I have a deep, heartfelt desire to see people do better in life. And I've already spoken to the Democratic candidates for governor to tell them that's what I would like to do. And it's an area that no one else can offer the same skill set that I have. But it's like a mission for me to be able to do that. And a very small percentage of our people are consuming a lot of the resource because they're suffering and things aren't getting better. I can bring hundreds of millions of dollars back into the taxpayers' pockets and back into investment in other programs by solving the problems the ways I know how. So having a lieutenant governor finally with a skill set and a lot of passion, I think will make a big difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ng.
Yes, well, I'm with the Green Party, and the Green Party gubernatorial candidate is my husband. Therefore, we think alike. So basically, all of the things I've said, he would implement, we would implement, and I would be in the mix. He wants me to be in the mix. So I think lieutenant governors should be a lot more proactive. You know, they shouldn't just be sitting there twiddling their thumbs for 4 years. And to get to that position, of course, they are very talented. We should use their talents, whatever they may be.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay, Mr. Lo, how would you position yourself to alter the perception of the lieutenant governor's position as being largely ceremonial?
Aloha, Jeremy Lo, running for lieutenant governor, Republican primary. What we need to understand is the lieutenant governor is a constitutional officer. So we have the governor, we have the lieutenant governor, we have the cabinet, the directors of the department. You know, they are all, well, put it this way, the lieutenant governor can't be fired by the governor. right? Clearly you want them to get along, and clearly, you know, they're going to be more in sync because they're of the same party. But the lieutenant governor actually could do quite a bit. And in past years, lieutenant governors, unfortunately, you know, they just keep their mouth shut, they bide their time because, you know, most of them are angling for governor or higher office. So they're not really taking advantage of the 4 or 8 years that they have being in office. They could do so much. One of the things is because they don't have a lot of official duties, you know, such as name changes, conveyance on certain land things, certain land conveyances. The lieutenant governor is the Secretary of State of Hawaii, and a lot of people don't realize that. So the lieutenant governor actually has a lot of power and authority. They just need to do it. So as lieutenant governor, Jeremy Lowe, please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Kearns.
Oh, me, it's a big one. I want to have the Hawaiians to get the opportunity, get a roof on top of their head, especially between Oahu and the Big Island. I spoke to a lot of people in the Big Island. They told me, and most of them are Hawaiians, they told me about 15,000 homeless Hawaiians in the Big Island and 18,000 in Oahu. I will propose, I will ask the governor, hopefully us Republican get the seat. We're going to be better than Governor Linda Lingo. What we're going to do, I live in Waiʻanae, the entire Makaha, we can put about what, maybe 10, 20 Makaha towers right there. Or some Hawaiians, they can afford to buy their own regular homes or single dwelling like where you live. Why can't we as a state, we go ahead and designate a land, put underground utilities, put electricity, water, everything in there, and hook up a trailer, hook up an RV. You know what I'm saying? Some Hawaiians, that's all money they have. They cannot afford to go to the bank and borrow money from the bank. Cannot, right? Why can't we just do that? Give them like what, 50 years, 20-year lease, whatever it is. Put them somewhere, they, you know, where they belong. Roof on top of your head, it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Then we will fix the rest of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Well, for those of you just joining us, I'm Niniao Simmons. This is my partner for tonight, Kaukaohu
Wahilani.
Wahilani. And we're here with the 2018 Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum. We're down to our last couple minutes, so I want to give everybody 20 seconds each to do a closing statement. And we'll start with you, Mrs. Kearns.
Good evening, aloha and mabuhay. I'm so happy that you guys invited me to come to this event. This is a great honor. I'm very proud of representing Waiʻanae and the entire Hawaii. It's because we need help. This is an emergency run for office. We cannot wait another 4 years. Ige's gotta go, Hanabusa is the same thing. Enough for Democrats. We knew that already. So many people left the state. 150,000 for the last, what, several years? That's enough.
Thank you.
That's enough. And we have to move and take back our state. Hawaiians and Filipinos, you gotta unite. You can take it back. And I said that because I feel it. I live in Waiʻanae. I see it every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mrs. Ng.
Yes. Neil Milner said in Civil Beat it the best. He said, we need to think of the housing homeless crisis as an emergency and move on it with out-of-the-box thinking. This is what we need to do for housing. There are things we can do. And then we need to decide what steps we're going to take to get there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowe.
Hi, Jeremy Lowe, running for Lieutenant Governor, Republican primary. You have to ask yourself a fundamental question. Do you think things are okay? Do you think the status quo is fine? If you don't, and most of us don't, you need to vote for a change, a real change. And the Republican Party in Hawaii, that's the real change. You know, if you vote for Democrats, you're going to get more of the same. That's crazy. You know, nothing is going to change. So please vote for me, Jeremy Lowe, for Lieutenant Governor in the Republican primary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Josh Green.
Thank you. I came to Hawaii to be a family physician. I met my wife here. I have 2 beautiful children. I serve in the House of Representatives and then in the State Senate. I'm totally committed to making solutions for our homeless crisis, our opioid crisis, and if you elect me Lieutenant Governor, you'll have someone that can really work in the trenches for all of our people. I'm so grateful to have had this time with you tonight. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, on behalf of the volunteers of the Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum, myself and Kaukaohu, just want to thank you for taking the time on a Friday night to come out here to Mapunapuna and the Ōlelo studios. As volunteers, everyone's committed to making sure that the candidates have a nonpartisan unbiased area to come and just share your views and make sure that the people on the other end of the TV can make an informed decision.
Yes.
And so for those of you who've not yet registered to vote, the primary election is August 11th. So we've been talking in our moderating on when we were doing commentary
Yes.
about the importance of participating in the democratic process, and Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalaniana Ole's commitment from 1902 to 1922 and his untimely death on utilizing the democratic process as a way for Native Hawaiians to engage and shape the territory at the time. And so we just want to encourage all of the people here who are in Hawaii to register to vote, go out to the polls on the primary election on August 11th, or do your walk-in or your mail-in ballot if you're not able to go on that day.
Thank you, Nini. And I just want to leave with the candidates this evening a quote from our beloved Queen Liliuokalani: "The voice of the people are the voice of God." So if you ho'olohe nā po'e Hawaii, if you listen, truly listen to the people of Hawaii, mai ka ilo. So mahalo, Dr. Josh Green, Marissa Kearns, Jeremy Lowe, and Renee Ng. Mahalo nui.
Yes,
And
mahalo.
good luck with your elections.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, mahalo.
It's nice being here.
Yes, mahalo.
Aloha.
Aloha, I'm Poka Lainoi, and I will be giving some commentaries. And with me is Julie. Aloha, Julie. Good to see you
Aloha,
again.
is it?
Julie
Kachola.
Kachola. Yeah, and both of us have some experience in the Waiʻanae community and having grown up there.
Lifetime.
And having seen what has been happening tonight, we just went through the Lieutenant Governor's panel.
Very interesting.
What observations did you make?
You know, it's the question of what is the role actually of the lieutenant governor, and you know, kind of getting that honed in. But I see lieutenant governor as part of a team, you know, and so it's interesting responses. That's all I'm saying. What were some of the things? I mean, they're talking about cost of living, for instance, and the economy. But you know, not really coming up with those kind of solution sets along those lines. I was surprised that they had so many solutions or ideas about homelessness, which you know they had given some thought about. But what did you think?
Well, I thought campaigning for the lieutenant governor's position is probably one of the most difficult campaigns because the definition of a lieutenant governor is undefined. You just named there in the Constitution as a lieutenant governor. They should have just said one heartbeat away from the governor, and then you take over, or whenever he goes traveling.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat. But I think actually one can be much more than just sitting there a heartbeat away. Lieutenant governor, of course, should be supporting the plans of the governor, but what happens if you disagree with the governor? Especially when you have a system in which you are not running as a team. As previously, you know, you would select your team mate.
Yes.
But that ran into some problems when, I don't know if you remember, you were just a young kid at that time when, was that, Governor Burns wanted to, and had selected, who was that? Mr. Brown, Kenny Brown. And he ran against Tom Gill. Tom Gill won the election for lieutenant governor. And so there was some bad feelings at that time. So I'm not certain about how one should be elected lieutenant governor. But I think a lieutenant governor takes the opportunity, or should have the opportunity, to take a holistic view of what is happening to Hawaii and what direction Hawaii should be moving into, to give that wider perspective.
Right.
You know?
So they don't have to deal with the day-to-day, but they could deal with a bigger picture, which is really what we need.
Yeah, I was somewhat concerned about the responses of this panel, and not only this panel, but the earlier panels, with the overemphasis of Native Hawaiians and the conditions of Native Hawaiians. You know, I understand, and both of us being Native Hawaiians, we understand the conditions of Native Hawaiians, but there's always this expectation that we are the down and out, the homeless, those people who are sick, or the drug addicts and the rest. And really what we are trying to address is a human condition, not the Native Hawaiian condition. So the commonality among those who need that special help are not necessarily the Native Hawaiians. It's just, to a certain extent, we may fall to a greater amount in that category. But what we really need to address is the human conditions, whether they're Filipinos, Native Hawaiians, Japanese, Chinese, whatever it is. And that, I think, is a real issue that we need to address. So somehow, even we, as Native Hawaiians, need to overcome our own racist approach and look at the human condition as a central approach.
Well, you want to talk about human condition. I mean, nobody talked about disaster preparedness. Nobody talked about, the fact that or food security, for instance, or sustainability, those kind of issues. To me, when you talk about, the human condition, I mean, we're on an island environment, and we need to take care of our resources better. Maybe the Hawaiians have a good idea on how to do that, because maybe, I'm just saying, but if we handle the human condition, then to me we should be looking at those critical issues of being isolated, of looking at disaster preparedness.
And I think with that, we should also be looking at what creates that human condition. And then we start being critical of the actual reasons for the human conditions. What people don't want to address is the issue of, one, U.S. constitutional protection, so that they have taken away all of the decisions out of the states and they have given it to the federal government. So the feds decide who we can trade with. The feds decide what our immigration policies are. The feds control the military and they control what the lands are in Hawaii. But because people are so dependent on the so-called patriotism to the United States, they are afraid to criticize those issues. So you cannot really look at the human conditions and understand it if you're not willing to criticize.
Well, what I like you saying is also about the human condition is the holistic approach, which I really do agree. And I listening to the responses, I really felt that segmentation of, the responses. And it's hard because, the position, but to the extent that, they could be talking or at least looking in that more holistic direction, kind of teeing up for
I think another major area, and a lot of candidates, being a candidate gives you the opportunity to raise these social economic questions. One of the major questions is a question of capitalism. It's something you don't want to touch. You're not supposed to be willing to touch because so many people are in favor of capitalism without really understanding it. But when you talk about the high cost of living, it's not a matter of getting state lands and making it available for the people who cannot afford it. It's not a matter of just increasing those at the lower wages. It's the hoarding that is taking place by foreigners who come in and buy up our lands. On Kauai, I heard 50% of the lands or the new property that was coming on the market was being purchased by these conglomerates from foreign areas. 50% of the housing coming onto the markets.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not only these foreigners, even within Hawaii, you have these investors who are hoarding these lands. So you have one individual who may own 20 homes. And what are they doing? They are hoarding and they are making use of
it's a guaranteed good investment, right? The real estate in Hawaii will always appreciate.
And we have to cut through the capitalism that infests itself into the hoarding market and start saying, if you're not going to live in that land, you cannot buy it. Only people who are actually going to live in that home can purchase homes. And we're going to tax you at an additional amount to start loosening up this hoarding thing. Now, some people say, oh, that's unconstitutional. We have the right to make as much money as we want to.
We're a little different from the rest of the states, I would think.
Not even that. If they could take the land away from Bishop Estate and say it is a public policy.
From private hands to private hands. That's what they did.
Then we start circulating land ownership.
Why not so do it all the way? I hear you.
What is good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
You, yes.
And so we need to say we're going to attack this idea of hoarding by people simply using our land for investment purposes.
Correct. Yes, when you put it in the context of what happened to Kamehameha School's Bishop Estate, it was horrible.
And that's a kind of thinking outside of the box, looking at other solutions,
Yes.
being willing to challenge ideas that others would not normally challenge. And the lieutenant governor has the freedom to think, to dream, to
Well, I've
ask
got to give it to
questions.
these candidates for at least standing up and trying. I mean, mahalo to them, you know, to have enough civic mindedness to run for that office.
Well,
So, mahalo
we'll-
them. That's what I was thinking. It's like, you know, that takes a lot to
Yeah,
do something
yeah.
like that. So mahalo for the
and we'll
their
be back
engagement.
watching more candidates as we continue with this review of the Waiʻanae Coast Community Forum.
Thank you. That's cool.
Thank you.